What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. DLPeck Fishing. We're coming back at you with another video. This week, we're talking Joe Pool Lake. Joe Pool Lake is located near Cedar Hill, Texas. And I tell you what, if you're looking at catching numbers, you definitely want to consider adding this lake to your list to fish this fall. Now, if you're looking for size, then you have to work just a little bit more to target those bigger fish. So we had a club tournament out there last week, and I think just about everybody bought a bag to the scale. Granted that this is a slot lake, so we had a lot of small fish being bought to the scale, but we had a really good time. We may have had some paper fish that were pretty decent, but other than that, we had a lot of small fish turned in. However, if you want to fish for numbers, like I said, you need to try this lake out. Now, in this video, I'm gonna bring you value by showing you some of the areas that I fish, as well as some of the baits that I use. The way we're gonna structure this video is I'm gonna pull up Google Earth, as well as sharing some of the video footage from my boat. We're gonna marry those two together, and hopefully you can identify these areas and have some success on this lake in case you're in town and you want to stop by and fish it. So let's get into it. All right, let's get into Joe Pool Lake, y'all. This is my club tournament like we've been talking about. This is my raw footage that I've put on YouTube under my channel. Now listen, if you don't like to listen to me through the entire video, I provided chapters in the descriptions that I'll show you how to get to in a second. But hopefully you will check this entire video out. It's good for my channel and the algorithm that YouTube uses. And I just like to get this video pushed out to more YouTube users out there. So let's get into it, man. Joe Pool Lake. Now, if you go into my description area, what I'll be walking through, excuse me, these chapters 1 through 10, and I've indicated all my fish catches here and just certain areas and what I'm doing in these chapters. But let's walk through what's going on here. First, I want you to take note of this beautiful, beautiful skyline in the background. This was an awesome morning to fish. You couldn't ask for better weather in general. I mean, it's beautiful skies, watch the sun come up. So I'm here just relaxing here on this scene. I've used, to this point, I've used spinnerbait and small crankbait, just running them through some hydrilla that I'm fishing over to your left. And I've caught a lot of small fish up until this point, but I've been throwing everything back, y'all. And I'm gonna tell you about a little mistake that I made in this tournament. I forgot that this was a slot lake, okay? And for those who don't know what a slot is, it's a range of size of that fish that you can actually retain in your boat. So for Joe Pool, you can retain any fish length from 14 inches and under. You can take them to the scales, or I believe 21. Don't hold me to this. If I'm wrong, I'll put it on the screen. Inches or above, you can bring to the scale. So anything between those two numbers, you must put them back in the water immediately. And we're one of the few bass clubs that still uses what we call paper fish. So in other words, we can keep track of these fish during a tournament, but we have to write it on a piece of paper, the length of the fish, and then we have a chart to tell us what the average weight is for that fish based on the inches. So that was the case for this tournament. I totally forgot. So I threw a lot of fish back, y'all. So I pretty much just donated to this tournament, but I had a really good time. I figured everything out by noon, and I started keeping track of things. But for the most part, this tournament was a wash for me anyway, but good fish catches. So in here, we hitting around the 232 mark. I think I pulled one out. In this scene right now, what I'm using is what you call a Carolina rig, and I'm fishing a deep ledge. And so again, look at that sun. It's just the way it's coming out right there and watching that is awesome. But yeah, here go this fish catch on the Carolina rig, um, 1/4 ounce weight, and I'm using a fluke, a Zoom fluke. So I think it's like 4 or 5 inch green pumpkin fluke. So while I'm working this fish out here, there was a little bit of chop in this marina. This marina is called Lynn Creek. I think it may be the only marina on this lake. I have a lot of history behind this area. I mean, I actually grew up on this lake as a teenager, and I fished it quite a bit with my dad. But I hadn't been here in a number of years. I did make a couple of practices early on in the year on this lake, didn't do that well. So really wasn't looking forward to coming back actually. But for this day, I had a really, really good time. So as you see, I'm pulling that fish out and I threw him back in the water. So that would have been, I think, my third keep. I would have had my limit. Yeah, there go the fish right there. I would have had my limit of 5 in 30 minutes of this tournament. I was just catching them like crazy. I'm not showing all of it, but you know, it is what it is. So here I've switched areas. I think I've called this area C. I'm gonna show you where this is located. I really had a good time fishing this area. Lots of brush piles, lots of timber. There were several boats over here that it kind of moved off. I was in another location, but I was kind of watching this area while I was fishing that other location. I said, I'm gonna go over there and fish and see what it's all about. And so this turned out to be one of the better areas in terms of quality of fish right here. So I'm on the Mega Live. I'm fishing a brush pile that I've found a pretty good fish on. So I got hooked up right here. This was nice. Yeah, that's a nice fish that jumped out there. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, so that fish would be within us inside the slot. So I think what I measured on that fish was about 18 inches. So yeah, there you go. That's a good looking fish, nice healthy fish. This is a nice healthy lake, I'll tell you that. There's a lot of crappie fishermen on here, but there's some bass fishermen, but it's just not overcrowded. Really good lake. The bass look good. But yeah, I think I measured that one around 17 and a half maybe. So I think I retained them for just a little bit before I realized it was a slot. So I papered him and threw him back. But I was really targeting bigger fish in this tournament. I mean, I already kind of felt some type of way that I had already thrown like 3 or 4 fish back. So at this point, I'm just fishing, to be quite honest with you. I think I'm in the same area C, and I found another brush pile just checking out my Mega Live. Like I said, this is a really, really good area to fish. Let's look to see what the details here. So, yep, I think I'm hooked up right there. Yeah, so another good fish. I mean, that may have been 14, maybe a little bit under, but I think I wound up throwing him back too. So not a good day. So I'll talk a little bit about what I'm using here and why I'm fishing this area. On this one, I believe I was fishing that brush pile with a shaky head. It's likely, just looking here, I believe it was a Z-Man. Yeah, a Z-Man worm. So I had that on a shaky head, just kind of working in that brush pile. This fish just choked it. It took me a minute to then get this one out. I'm trying to help the poor fish, but he made it through. There you go. There goes my shaky head 3-aught hook. So not too bad there. Then I got broke off right here, y'all. I broke off a good one right here. I mean, there were a lot of good fish that were shallow in this area. So that one hurt quite a bit. Moving on to this area, I tell you what, this is one of my favorite areas of the lake. I mean, it's plenty grass. It has a nice bend to it, so almost no matter what the wind direction is, this area is great. Now, I caught a lot of small fish in this area, and I did not, I had some issues with GoPro, staying on and all that good stuff, but I caught a lot of fish down this bank, and they were small. But I'm looking forward to coming back to this lake, in the later fall months, closer to when it gets cold as well, and fish in the back of this cove, because I know that they're going to be there. I've seen a few. I think they're moving in quite a bit, but if you just want to go catch for fun right here and just catch fish, there's plenty in this cove. That one caught that one on a Texas rig brush hog. Again, that's a 3/16 tungsten bullet weight, and that's a baby brush hog. You got a mid-sized brush hog that's a little bit bigger than that, and then a large brush hog. I'm using a baby brush hog, and the color on that is green pumpkin. And I do dip the tail in a little bit of garlic and get that chartreuse look to it. That helps a lot. And I caught all of my fish in this cove on that brush hog. I couldn't put it down. Actually, I started picking up the Carolina rig once I, seen some grass and if it was deep enough, I'll just, put that Carolina rig on top of the grass and just drag it through. I think that's what I'm doing right here. And you can see, I hadn't tightened up my line. I like to throw on top of that grass, straighten that line out, and just drag through it. I caught a lot of fish on the Carolina rig on this lake as well. Carolina rig fluke. Again, the colors primarily that I was using was green pumpkin. On that Z-Man Carolina rig that I was using earlier, that was the deal color. That color usually works very well in the cleaner water. It actually mimics a bait fish. Really nice. I may have still been on a brush hog right here. Let's see where we at in our chapters. Yeah, we fish in Area E. I think I'm getting close. Yeah, there's the Carolina rig. I'm looking at the watch at this point. Tournament is out. I'm pretty much done at this point. I'm just fishing. I think check-in was at 3:00. I think around this time is roughly 2:30, and the tournament was just a wash for me at this point. I think I catch my last fish here. Still have that Carolina rig tied on. A little bit about the reel setup. I'm using a 7.4 on a 7.4 speed reel gear ratio. I'm sorry, and then the rod itself is a 7.6 foot medium heavy rod. The line that I'm using is fluoro, 12 pound. I think the leader is the same as well. I'm sorry, I'll take that back. Actually, that fluoro is 18 pounds on that Carolina rig, and the leader is 12 pounds. All right, guys, so that's the end of my day on this tournament. Like I said, I turned the one fish in that I had that was a paper fish that was, I think, around 17.5 inches. There was bags turned in during this tournament, and it was a lot of small fish brought to the scale. As you can see in the video, I threw all my small fish back. So I kind of blew the tournament, but I had a great time. So I hope you got some value out of this video by me showing you some of the areas that I fish, some of the baits that I use, and also some of the equipment that I use. Make sure you tune in for Joe Pool Lake Part 2, where I do exactly what I said at the beginning of this video when I told you guys that if you want to get on big fish, you got to put in a little more work on this lake. Well, I've done just that. So check me out in Part 2. We got some fish catches coming, y'all. Talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. And oh yeah, tight lines.